do you mean my videos aren't long enough? Okay, I'll tell you what. I've got an idea. We're going to throw together a load of jobbing jobs, all in one big video. So you've got plenty of time. You can watch. You can just. Oh, I mean, it must be so entertaining. God, what a boring thing. Especially if you're a plumber and then you come home and you're just sat there and you're like, I'm going to watch some more plumbing. Right, we're going to do a load of jobbing videos today in this video. It is just a video of jobbing videos. So let's do it. We got some a shower. We got shower pump. We got a radiator to install. We've got some tap washers to replace, and we've got some toilets to fix. So all of that coming up in this video right now. So I've come to replace a shower pump. Now, if you have a look at the shower pump, as you can see, it's a single impeller pump. So what they've done is basically where it goes to either the rainwater head or the handheld, they've basically put the pump in between there, so it's actually just pumping the blended water. So this isn't a shower pump, this is just a single impeller pump. So what I'm having to do is I'm having to work out how I can put in a proper shower pump for this customer. So first thing we need to do is we need to link across, as you can see, loop up where they teed in to put that single impeller pump. So now that that's all linked up and that's all good, we need to basically tee in between both the hot and the colds. So we're going to be running 4 pipes down, 2 for the cold, 2 for the hot. And basically, they cut in between, and that's going to pump both the hot separately and the cold separately, as it's a twin impeller pump. So I hope that you can sort of understand where I'm going. So where that used to come across there, it now goes down, goes through the pump, and then back up, and continues on. So the second job of the day, as you can see, I'm cutting a bracket. Why? Because I'm installing what some might call a school radiator or a column radiator. And I'm using this fantastic new hose. Now, I was working with a guy called Dan Belford, and he had one, and it's made by Arctic Haze. They're absolutely fantastic. He said he's had his for nearly 15 years, and it's never, ever, ever kinked. So, I thought, right, now that I'm working with Arctic Haze, I'm going to get them send me one out, and I'm going to give it a go. And I'll tell you what, it's fantastic. So, we're going to get that bracket on the wall. Now, the reason I've cut it down is because they come super, super long, and you don't want it poking out through the front. So basically they work with 2 plates and then you pinch them together with 2 nuts. I think they're 13mm nuts. So sometimes it can be a bit difficult to get in there with your hands, and then we just need to level up that radiator. So what we're doing is we're just making sure it's all nice and parallel, so the bottom and the top of the radiator are both the same distance away from the wall. And then we can tighten up that bracket. Now it's easy to just tighten up the nut at the back and pinch it to the radiator, rather than trying to get in there with maybe a deep socket set or something like that. So now that we've got all that tightened up, we can start prepping this radiator. So using the Rapid Blue, we're just going to get all of the tails in. Now, although you don't have to do these super tight, because they're the old sort of like 3/4 tails, you need to get in there with a radiator spanner. So that's what that strange looking little device, it looks like a little Christmas tree, goes inside of it, and then you can ratchet it up. Now, a little tip as well, if you're using Rapid Blue, Loctite, whatever it is, liquid PTFE, now if you put the valve on, it will pull the nut away from any drips and stop the nut getting basically, you know, bunged up, stop it from turning. So because this is a bungalow and all the pipework comes up through the floor, and you can see it's it's got really long corridors. So it's got 3 long corridors. It's in this sort of Y shape. Now, you're bleeding the radiators and the water's dropping down, and then it's coming back up through where the drain point.
2,000 years later.
So it takes a long, like an excruciatingly long time. So now that it's finally drained, there's still going to be some water in the pipework. Now, luckily, you need to get yourself a wet vac. I've got a wet vac, and you can just basically just suck up the last bits that are in the pipework. Now, this pipework is going to be very, very, very tight. So I'm using, yes, an M&F elbow into the valve, but they're the long tail ones. So because they're long tail, the olive is not going to slip off. Now, it's not ideal, but needs must. So we're going to be refilling up the central heating system. Unfortunately, and I'm really kicking myself because of this, and you know how much I love editing my videos, I didn't get me doing the pipe work. Don't know why, I thought I hit record, I must have not. So, there's no actual footage of the pipe work. But I am going back there because the bleed nipple was missing. And I've got to go there, put the bleed nipple on, and then fill up that last radiator. So I've left both of the valves turned off so that I can get the central heating system filled up with inhibitor and just filled up. So, just bleed in the last radiator, and there we go, job done.
One eternity later.
Right, so the customer has called me out because they've had that heating system and the hot water system upgraded. So, they've gone from having a traditional tank in the loft, now they've got an unvented cylinder, meaning that the hot and the cold are now high pressure. So on this bath tap, it used to be fed both hot and cold from tanks. So, when they upgraded the water pressure, it started absolutely dripping and running. So, what I need to do is I need to take off the cartridge and replace the washer inside. Now, I want you guys to tell me, at what point would you guys give up? And at what point do you say, right, you need some new taps? So, as you can tell, when we've taken the cartridge off, it's been quite difficult because one, the screw has been completely rounded off, so the head wasn't able to be removed. Now, luckily, you can get some fin jaw spanners down once you remove the cover plate. Now, the only problem with that is I've lost my fin jaw spanners, so I actually had to get the grinder out and make these fin jaw spanners. So, we've got it out and we've got it apart, but we've noticed that the rubber is completely missing. So the rubber's still in the tap somewhere. Now, instead of losing it further down inside of the pipework, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it apart just so I can actually get it out. And so you can see, here's some of it. So that is like the center core, like the apple core of the washer, and there's the outside of the washer. And then we're taking it downstairs and we're thinking, right, the washer's missing. Now there should be a screw that holds it in place. Now that is sheared off. So what did I do? I got my angle grinder, got a cutting disc, made a nice little groove in there so that I could get a flat-headed screwdriver in so I could remove it. Now I've always got some spares of these. So we're going to nick both the washer and we're going to nick that little screw off of a new cartridge. I'm going to put that on and get it all replaced. So because it's a bath tap, I don't mind repairing it, as I find it easier to repair most of the time than removing and potentially damaging a bath panel and then having the difficulty of replacing them, because actually getting to the back nuts can be harder than what I'm doing now. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Now also with these, because they're a mixer tap, you can get the same ones and you could just replace them from that nut there. And also with anything that you're going to be replacing, we're going to create a nice smooth surface. So the easiest way to do this is made by Monument Tools. It is called a tap reseater. So what you're doing is you're reseating the plate so it's a nice smooth finish. There you go, you can see it's nice and shiny. So rubber can sit on top without any impurities, any scuffs and bumps and limescale build-up possibly. And the washer can sit nice and flat. So we're going to put everything back together the way that we took it apart. So we're going to get our fin jaw spanners down in between. Going to tighten that up. This is sometimes easier to do with two hands and not be holding a camera. But there we go, make sure that's nice and tight. Now we're just going to wind that cover plate back over. And we're going to go downstairs and we're going to turn on the cold mains. And we're going to get everything run through and we're going to give it a check. Now look. This bath here is actually a roll top bath, so the tap underneath would be more accessible, but I've still decided to repair rather than replace. Now just going to make sure we clean out the tap because there's going to be some shavings and bits from where we've reseated the tap, and make sure that's all nice and clear. And then we're just going to make sure that it actually does turn off nicely. And there we go, job done. Good morning. And we're going to be doing some toilet repairs today. We've got a leaky toilet. We'll find out what that is when we get there. But first, we don't want to be touching no toilets and then eating food. So I want to get my breakfast before I go to the job. And every time I go to a little village called Brails, look at this bad boy. Right, size of my fucking hand. This is a bacon cheese croissant.
Get in my belly, I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly, come here, I'm gonna eat you.
So let's get to it. So we got two very different styles of toilet. The first one is a low-level pan and cistern. The other is a close couple pan and cistern. So we've got to do things slightly differently. One's a bent pan connector, one is a straight pan connector. So we're going to be going back to the low-level cistern. So over at this one, we're going to undo them screws we just snapped off, and then we're going to tip that pan back and then put it to one side. Now over at the close coupled, things are slightly different because they've got some nice flooring down, so we need to cut around the silicone, need to unscrew it so that we can remove the pan. So we only need to just bring it forward slightly so that we can access the pan connector at the back, and there we go. So over at the horrible job, we've got to remove this pan connector. Now wear gloves, guys. I don't know why I'm wearing gloves in every other bit of this footage, but not here, the worst bit. So make sure you wash your hands. Right. So when we're cutting the new one, we're going to have to make sure everything is the same, like for like. Now, I usually use a recip saw with a very long blade, but I've run out of blades, so I'm using an angle grinder here. Now, we're also going to be replacing the flush pipe and the flush cone, because chances are, if you put it back onto the old one, that's going to leak next, and you're just going to get called back. So you might as well, for what it costs, just replace everything. You can get yourself some of these Black Mamba gloves, super cheap from directplumbersupplies.com. If you haven't tried them out, just have a little look, see what you think, because they're the cheapest I've ever seen. Yeah, I've literally never seen a merchant that sells them cheaper, so grab yourself a box. Now, before we put anything old back in place, always give it a good clean up, because any of the debris might affect the rubber seal. So we're going to push everything back. Now we don't use any lubricant or anything like that. Just push it back in. And because it's dry, it will hold and it won't pop back out. So we're going to push that back as hard as we can. Now, over on the close couple job. So we're going to remove the pan connector. Because it's straight, just need to pull the pan forward enough so that you can slide it out. Same thing again. Make sure you clean everything up. And then you can pop it on and push it back into place. Now, with these, because obviously the floor's been cut, you've got to make sure that you push it back far enough and give it a good few kicks, just to make sure that you're covering all of the cutout around the floor. Now, as always, give it your 10 flushes, make sure you've got no leaks. And on this one, everything's looking good, so we can screw it back down. So because this one's got on a concrete floor, obviously we need to drill it out with a masonry bit, and we need to screw it down with some raw plugs and put it into the floor. And I'm also putting a little bit of silicone around. It'll just stop any smells. So there was, obviously it was concreted in before. Now I don't know whether or not they was having smells, and that's why I put it in. So, you know, belt and braces. So over on the close couple job, giving it a flush, make sure everything's nice, so that we can screw down the pan and we can silicone it up. Now, clear silicone is fantastic because it's very forgiving. Now I'll use my magic spray and then we'll wipe it off, and it leaves a lovely clean finish. So there we go. What do you think? Job done.
Please hit the follow button to see more Professor Plum. He is the #1 plumber on TikTok.
Right, you've watched it all now. You've got this fact. You're at the very end. You're at the after credits. This is the after credit MCU deleted scene that I can't believe you've got this far. Unbelievable effort that you got this far. Right, if you care this much that you're at this point, I hope you like that sort of thing. I hope you liked a little bit of a mashup of different things. I kind of liked it, actually. I thought it was quite good. It's nice to look back at some of the jobs and all the little bits I've done over the last few years. So, there you go. Also, yeah, #1 on TikTok.